Hello, how's it going? Welcome back. It is Christmas time and it's that time of year again, yes indeed. And of course we've got your Christmas video for you again this year, and naturally Matthew's guilty yet again of dereliction of duty because he's not here. So I am entirely on my own. There you go, Mike, I've got some whiskey for you. There you are. What do you think of that?
Oh, cheers.
No, it's all good.
Cheers.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Enjoy. Lovely. So yes, as I was saying, I'm entirely on my own. I've got myself some whiskey though. This is Talisker Sky, the winner of my favourite whiskey head-to-head. With, it was actually against another Talisker Portree. I love them both, but Talisker Sky won out on that occasion. I did a video about it. None of you watched it, so you probably haven't seen it, but I do love this stuff. It is wonderful. Talisker Sky. So good. From the Isle of Skye, which is also one of my very favourite places on earth. So, Christmas 2024. Are you all ready for it? I hope I am. I thought I was, and then more presents arrived in the post. So, fingers crossed we're all good now. What are we going to talk about this year? Well, a couple of topics. First of all, we are all big fans of the RC hobby. That's why you're here, that's why you're watching this video, that's why I do these videos. Sorry, I'm making myself comfortable. Yeah, but you ever stop to ask yourself, what is it about the hobby that makes it so good? Why is it such a fun hobby, and why do you take part in it? Because sometimes it's very frustrating when you break stuff, sometimes it's very expensive when you break stuff or get new ones, and it's not all sunshine and rainbows. I was thinking about this. The best thing about the RC hobby, and why I actually think, genuinely, it is one of the best hobbies in the world. It really is. It's good for you. Genuinely good for the soul. A bit like whiskey. Remember, it may rain a lot in Scotland, but today's rain is tomorrow's whiskey. Anyway, RC. The RC hobby. We all love it. And I think fundamentally, it comes down to our love of vehicles and cars and trucks and objects and machines and things, because how many RC enthusiasts are also not into cars? I don't think I've ever met an RC enthusiast who's not into cars, whether that's, classic cars, sports cars, or even simply, oh, are you going to watch the Grand Prix this weekend? Oh, you're going to watch the touring cars this weekend? Oh, did you see such and such an event? Did you go down to Goodwood? You know what I mean? Oh, have you been to Le Mans 24 Hour, which is something I'd love to do. It's like we cannot all be involved in motorsport. For example, I would love to be involved in motorsport. I grew up watching motorsport. I adore it. My dream was to be a racing driver, like any little boy. Be around race cars, the sight, smell, sound, and in a way, this is as close as some of us can get, because you can get a high performance racing machine or an extreme monster truck or whatever, and it's miniature and it's yours, and you're never going to own these things in real life or experience these things in real life, really, apart from maybe on the sidelines. So there is part of it that is almost like it falls into that category of, I love motorcycles, I love cars, I love trucks, I love trains, I love boats, I love planes. Oh, and by the way, I love the miniature versions too, because they're still machines. It's part of it. But I think that's definitely part of it. There's no doubt that our love of machines and mechanical things spills over into this hobby. There's no doubt about it. However, I think there's more to it than that, because this hobby sort of ticks a lot of boxes. When you talk about things that are good for you mentally, people that struggle with mental issues often shut themselves away and don't interact with people. And sometimes the very best thing for them is the thing that they fear most, which is getting out and talking to people and sharing with people and opening up. I mean, the RC hobby, it can be a solo affair if you want it to be, but my goodness, can it be social? Can it be? And it's a conversation piece. If you have two RC enthusiasts, even if they're not in a situation where they will be doing RC racing or RC bashing together, say they just bump into each other in a pub and get talking, you talk like car guys talk, or like Warhammer fans can talk, or like football fans can talk, or rugby fans can talk. You have a common connection and you can share it with them. It's extremely sociable, and it might come across, I actually kind of reject this notion, but people see it as sort of almost sad. Sometimes these hobbies, they look down on people who do, you know, whether it's Warhammer miniatures or Dungeons, what's it called, Dungeons and Dragons, or RC, anything that's like a miniature fake version of a real thing, although there's no such thing as dragons, but you know what I'm saying. And neither is there such thing as Warhammer. That's a bad example. Okay, the point is, sometimes there's a bit of a stigma attached to these hobbies, but I completely reject that. I completely reject that outright, because as far as I'm concerned, if you have a hobby, I don't care what it is, as long as it's positive and it does you good and it doesn't do anybody else harm, like vandalism, then I'm all for it. And I love seeing people who are passionate about stuff, even if I'm not passionate about it. I saw a short once about a historian I follow, and he's gotten back into 10-pin bowling. I mean, I enjoy 10-pin bowling, but I'm not like into it. He was going to a bowling ball shop and getting a new ball made up, and he was really excited about it. I thought, good on you, good on you. You know, enjoy it, have a good time. And I'm like that with any hobby. If it brings you joy and fulfillment and positivity, then absolutely go for it. RC does that in spades. I had somebody talk about on one of my videos how RC should be prescribed on the NHS as a sort of mental health boost, and I entirely get where he's coming from, because they wouldn't be able to afford it, but still, you know, it makes sense. It can be entirely sociable, and non-RC people, I'll get around to the point I was trying to make, they look down on it, but they don't seem to understand that you can genuinely have hours of conversation between RC enthusiasts, even if they're not taking part in it actively at that moment, because there's so much to talk about. It's so deep. So yeah, I mean, that's obviously a very positive aspect, but even more so when you're actually doing it together and you're in the moment, whether it's you're at a race club or you're at one of these speed events where you're trying to break 100 miles an hour through the speed traps or whatever it is, or you're just out bashing together. It's camaraderie, it's friendship, it's togetherness. It's entirely healthy. If you go to a club, any club of any sort of hobby that people are passionate about, there's a kinship, there's a togetherness. Let's say, for example, take Warhammer again, Warhammer 40k or whatever you're into. I mean, I've never really done it, but these guys are so passionate about it, and they never see each other. Okay, sometimes it can get a bit heated, because whenever something's competitive, it can get heated in anything, whether it's a sport, whether it's a hobby, or whatever. But there's a togetherness and a kinship, and they won't see each other struggle. You know, if I've broken this part, oh, do you have this? With the RC club, you know, I've lost a body pin. Do you have a body pin? Oh, the screws come out. Do you have a screw? Oh, I'm not quite sure. The car's not really handling well. What have you done for your setup? Oh, I've done this. And everybody helps each other out. I mean, there are rotten eggs, you know, there are exceptions, but by the most part, nobody will see you struggle. We'll see you have a bad time. They'll all do whatever they can to help out. I mean, just the race meeting I was at the other day, somebody showed up and I was like, oh, I'm glad you're here, just the guy I wanted to talk to. I wanted to use your body shell repairing skills, because this guy's really good at, you know, he's got really good tape, and he tucks it in, he gets it all neat and then seals it off and all this, and he repairs it and he cracks the body shell. He was happy to help out, because of course he was, because that's the RC hobby. It's so good for you. Like-minded people sharing things together, it's really, really positive. So that's one major aspect. Another thing is the engineering side of it. It teaches you skills and understanding. It's almost like, I mean, obviously RC cars are not real cars shrunk down. They're not like that at all. But some fundamental things are the same. Understanding caster, camber, toe-in, understanding the way the suspension geometry works, understanding shock absorbers, ball joints. They're all made differently, but the fundamentals are applicable most of the time. I mean, you're not going to have much carryover from a Tamia lunchbox to a real car, but you know what I'm saying. But it also teaches you problem solving. You see something that's wrong, you try and work out, why is that wrong? Why isn't that working? How does this work? How does this part integrate with this part? And even subconsciously, you're learning how things operate, how machines operate. And that ties into what I talked about earlier on, the love of machines. The skills you learn from RC is I think they're invaluable, really. I don't. When I got my first RC car, my first hobby grade, the TL01, the Tamia, I spoke about this recently. My dad built it for me, so I didn't really learn that much, but I was sitting with him, observing, and maybe I took on more than I realised. I don't know, but it's all good stuff. It really is. And he understood engineering because my dad is actually a retired engineer. So he put it together, and he was, oh, okay, yeah, okay, and he was understanding where it was going and what was going on from the process. And then when he built my Team Lossy Triple XS, what he was saying is, wow, look at the way this design is so superior to that TL01. Look at the way they thought up of this. This is completely different. And even as he was building it, he's like, "This is a completely different animal. I can tell already." And those moments are really satisfying. The build of an RC is sometimes more fun than the running of it. Certainly, a lot of Tamiya fans will attest to that, because Tamiya fans, they're not. It's not only Tamiya fans, but most Tamiya fans I've ever spoken to prefer the build, or at least value the build as much as the running of it, because Tamiyas are always fun to build. I know my HPI Venture was a great build. I really enjoyed that. For example, I really enjoyed the old ProLine Pro MT I used to have. That was a great build. It's just, that's all fun. It's all good stuff. And then of course you have the individualism, the customization, the making it yours. The best thing about, I've said this before, the best thing about car racing games is the customization. Oh, I like those wheels, I like that paint job, I'll put that body kit, oh, those exhausts, oh, this tune, oh, I'll do this, I'll lower it this way, blah, blah, blah. The RC hobby is that just amplified. You know, any wheels, any body shell, any colour, any stance, any performance, any setup, go nuts. You can start off with the same kit as the guy next to you and finish with a completely different product. It's so cool. You tie all those things together, and that's what makes the RC hobby so good. Obviously I've missed some. I've missed more aspects to it. Oh, here's one. How many hobbies can you get into that are just as applicable indoors as they are outdoors? Think about it. You love playing sports. You can't do that in your living room. Well, you probably shouldn't do that in your living room. Swimming? No, you can't do that in your house. Hiking? I love hiking. No, I can't do that in your house. Fishing? I adore... No, I can't do fishing. Do it in the bath, I suppose. Barbecuing? Wife wouldn't like that indoors, I don't think. Whisky? Whisky's a good hobby. Model railways are great indoors, probably not so good outdoors, especially in Scottish weather. But the RC hobby, oh, it's raining, oh, that's alright, we'll get the miniatures out. Drive around and make a little indoor course if you want. I mean, personally, I prefer it outdoors because bigger, faster, more space, more freedom, more adventure, but you can make it work indoors. And let's be honest, racing has been amazing fun, and we race indoors. It's so universal and customizable and adaptable, and people of all ages and backgrounds can have a go. I mean, obviously, all backgrounds. If you're coming from a working class family, you're not going to throw £1,000 at a lossy 5. But then I wouldn't do that either, because that's almost as much as I spent on my real car. But that's all fine. Yeah, I genuinely do believe that the RC hobby is one of the best hobbies in the world. And I'm not saying that just because I'm biased and I'm into it, but objectively, how many other hobbies tick as many boxes as the RC hobby does? I'm listening. Any other aspects I've missed? Any other reasons why it's top of the pile for you? Let us all know. Because, hey, we're here to discuss, as I said before, discussing with like-minded people. It's great fun. And if all I can do is do it via these YouTube comments, I'm still grateful for it. So please share your thoughts. So the second thing I wanted to talk about today was, what is your personal RC of the year? Now, I'm not talking about, oh yeah, Arma have released the the Mojave 4S, and it's perfect, and it's the best RC that came out this year because it takes the smaller 3S Sentin idea, which is fast, but it's a little bit not quite stable enough at that speed, and then you get the 6S one, which is really, really big and planted, but it bends because it's not really a basher, so this one's the perfect balance. Like, we all know this. I'm not talking about the best RC on the market, I'm talking about your personal RC of the year, your personal favourite one, the one that maybe you've bought okay, fair enough, maybe you bought a Mojave 4S, in which case, and you've driven it, you're like, that's my favourite RC. But I'm talking about one that you've had the most fun with this year. I don't own a Mojave 4S, or a TRX4, or a Lossy 5, or whatever. All I have are these here. I say all, there's quite a lot of them. So what's my personal RC of the year, the one that I have experience with? Well, let's talk about the honourable mentions. This first one might be a bit of a shock. It is the FTX Lemon. Yes, I know, the FTX Lemon, my FTX Outlaw, has been the most brittle, fragile, unreliable RC car I've ever owned. It has broken far more than 50% of the time I've used it. Probably something like 80 or 90% of the times I've used it. However, I think I used it twice this year, maybe once. I think once. Yes, once. And on that day, it was on a beach up north on the east coast, and it was amazing. Not the one I did when I was on the St Andrews beach, where I did a video, not that, because that was sort of damp, compacted sand. I mean, dry, light, fluffy, if that's the right word, sand. And I used the Kong head at the same time. And what else did I use? Something else, and I can't remember what it was, which kind of proves the point. The Outlaw, Matthew was there and he used a couple of his RCs as well. The Outlaw was amazing. It was so good. It was so fun. The rooster tails were amazing. The slides were amazing. The spectacle was great. And it didn't break because it was on soft sand. I mean, it could probably still break, but it didn't this time. So that's an honourable mention. But I won't ever give it RC of the year because it's my FTX Lemon, and there's just no way. Another contender is this right behind me, my TT01 Type E with the Mercedes 190E Evo 2 shell, but with a smaller spoiler 3D printed to try and make it look more like my real car, my 2.5 16, which is not an Evo 2 obviously, because I don't have £500,000. Because I've driven it, actually I didn't even drive it, it was Matthew that drove it. It was the ring bearer at my wedding, so it carried the ring down the aisle and nobody expected it, and they got a lot of laughs, and it was just so me, because our wedding, Rachel and I, it was us, you know, there was lots of her in the wedding, you know, her colours, the little horses on the wedding cake, but the me part was this RC car taking it down, and obviously the fact that I have a photo of me cleaning my Mercedes badge with her dress. But yeah, so that's got to be on there. But considering I didn't drive it and it was used once, apart from the practice, so a couple of times, yeah, doesn't really count. The HPI Venture, I'm going to mention that as well. It sounds like I'm mentioning a lot of my RCs. I appreciate my RCs, you know, I do. The HPI Venture has been brilliant since I built it. It's so robust, it never breaks. I have never maintained it. I've only ever used it once this year, I think, and again, it performed flawlessly and didn't break, because it doesn't, because it's my HPI Venture. Couldn't give it RC of the year because the memories I have running it aren't, you know, up here. It was just a good solid run from a good solid truck. It's a great truck, but I won't give it RC of the year. The last contender, and this really could be RC of the year for me, but it's not, because it'd be winning it every year if I followed the same set of rules, would be my Schumacher Atom 2, just because I love RC racing. Getting back into it 3 years ago and doing it every year since, I adore it. I adore the RC racing. I love the competition, I love the rivalries, I love the banter, I love the friendships. It's just great fun. I love being there, speaking to people, sharing with people. It's great. It's really good. My Atom 2, I wouldn't bother upgrading to an Atom 3. It's still better than I am, so why would I upgrade it? I don't think I'd really get any more lap time with an Atom 3. I like the Atom 2. I'm used to working on it. I understand it, so I'm going to stick with it. And I've had a great time with it yet again. But if I give that RC of the year now, I'd have to do it every year. So we'll just move on and say I love that thing. But finally, it is time for my RC of the year. It is the Mad Rat, even though I've not driven it. No, I can't do that. No, it is the Tamia Dancing Rider, because I absolutely love driving that thing. I love watching that thing. It is so silly, so enjoyable, so daft, different, interesting, quirky. That's another thing with the RC hobby. Things that are quirky and inferior can still be better. You know, if you have a computer game and it's a racing game and there's a car on it which is different and quirky, but you come last all the time because it's different and quirky and slow, you'd be like, nah, that car's rubbish, I'll just use a Porsche 911 or whatever it is. But no, this hobby, you can just go out and have a laugh. And the Tamia Dancing Rider, I'm looking up there because it's on the shelf behind the camera. Everywhere it goes, it makes people laugh, it makes people smile. I used it at the racing indoors just for laugh. I've used it outdoors. Only Tamia could build that thing, and I wouldn't sell it. It's just such a idiotic machine. And I think that's a good place to wrap it up. So all there is for me to say is have a wonderful Christmas. Merry Christmas to all of you. Try some Talisker Sky. I know nobody watched my comparison video of my favourite whisky, Sky versus Portree. However, I'm going to make another one anyway because I'm getting something pretty special for my Christmas. And I've got a funny feeling even this is going to fall in comparison. So be prepared for that if you're even remotely interested. If you're not, doesn't matter. I get to make a video and drink whiskey, so it's all good. Let me know down in the comments what your favourite RC of the year was, or your RC of the year. Let me know down in the comments if I've missed any aspects of the RC hobby that you really appreciate, and I will see you in 2025. Take care. Bye bye.